Thank you and welcome to our Faith, Family, and Freedom program. It's an honor for you to be with us today. I think you are really going to enjoy the program that has been selected today. I think it's going to be one that you will be thrilled to enjoy. We're going to be featuring different things today, but one of the presidents that we're going to be featuring is the 28th president, Calvin Coolidge. He was born up in Vermont, became president, I believe in August of 1923, upon the sudden death of Warren Harding. He was sworn in at night by his father, the Justice of the Peace. Silent Cal, as they called him. He didn't evidently talk too much. Very austere and very frugal person. He believed that the business of America, he said, is business. He wanted to keep a balanced budget. He didn't want to spend the government beyond its capacity to pay. Obviously, what he would have considered traumatic and burdensome and way out of bounds back in his day would be a drop in the bucket of nearly a $30 trillion deficit today, our national debt. Well, anyway, we don't have time to go into all of that, but I do want to share with you some remarks that was made by Calvin Coolidge, who came from the great state of Vermont and, of course, succeeded Warren Harding, who was born and reared in Marion, Ohio. I've been privileged to go to both of those places, and today let's join silent Calvin Coolidge, our 28th president.
The country needs every ounce of its energy to restore itself. The costs of government are all assessed upon the people. This means that the farmer is doomed to provide a certain amount of money out of the sale of his produce, no matter how low the price, to pay his taxes. The manufacturer, the professional man, the clerk must do the same from their income. The wage earner, often at a higher rate when compared with his earning, makes his contribution perhaps not directly, but indirectly in the advanced cost of everything he buys. The expenses of the government reach everybody. Taxes take from everyone a part of his earnings and force everyone to work for a certain part of his time for the government. When we come to realize that the yearly expenses of the governments of this country, the stupendous sum of about $7,500,000,000, we get $700 million is needed by the national government and the remainder by local governments. Such a sum is difficult to comprehend. It represents all the pay of 5 million wage earners receiving $5 a day, working 300 days in the year. If the government should add $100 million of expense, it would represent 4 days more work of these wage earners. These are some of the reasons why I want to cut down public expense. I want the people of America to be able to work less for the government and more for themselves. I want them to have the rewards of their own industry. This is the chief meaning of freedom. Until we can reestablish a condition under which the earnings of the people can be kept by the people, we are bound to suffer a very severe and distinct curtailment of our liberty. These results are not fanciful. They are not imaginary. They are grimly actual and real, reaching into every household in the land. They take from each home annually an average of over $300, and taxes must be paid. They are not a voluntary contribution to be met out of surplus earnings. They are a stern necessity. They come first. It is only out of what is left after they are paid that the necessities of food, clothing, and shelter can be provided and the comforts of home secured, or the yearnings of the soul for a broader and more abundant life gratified. When the government effects a new economy, it grants everybody a life pension with which to raise the standard of existence. It increases the value of everybody's property and raises the scale of everybody's wages. One of the greatest favors that can be bestowed upon the American people is economy in government.
And many economists think today that a democracy would continue to exist until such time that the voters discover that they can literally take gifts from the public treasury with their vote. That's what the former president of the University of Edinburgh said. The cycle that we see in America is one of spiritual bondage to liberty. Liberty goes to complacency. Complacency goes to abundance, and then abundance goes eventually back to bondage. It seems like it's a vicious cycle, a cycle that we repeat regardless of how informed we are. Isn't it amazing that many in the public today think we should feel, what can the government do for us? They really disregard President Kennedy's advice of ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Isn't it amazing that we try to vote for the candidates who promise us the most from the public treasury, or what they call the public largesse? Well, I don't understand, with all of the stupendous facts that go with economic data, but I do believe, as you probably believe, that there has to be a breaking point when our national debt gets us to the point to where that our money might be reduced in value. Already we borrow, I believe, 42% from the foreign governments, 42% maybe from China that has a lot of our debt. And we're in bondage, so to speak, to people that hate us, that is a communist regime, that don't believe in God, that will persecute their people, kill their people if they get off of the public narrative. They control the press, the media, they control the thinking. And I think that surely at some point in time we ought to have a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. That's what Senator Mike Braun has told me repeatedly. But we seem to have trouble getting that done in the halls of Congress, and I don't know why. But I think you and I need to be vigilant to the fact that we can't go on with excessive spending ad infinitum to no limit. And we'll be back in just a moment. Hello, friends. This is Andrew Phipps, and I believe that we need all of the materials that we can gather to help us as we combat the attack upon our faith, our family, and our freedoms. We need to be educated, and I have a handbook that has been given to state legislatures. It's been given to members of Congress. It's a colorfully created handbook that has graphs, charts, quotes, and different things in it. You'll be impressed with it. And also we have DVDs, we have CDs that are God and Country, Return to Greatness, and Faith, Family, and Freedom, some other wonderful materials, see the contact information on the screen. Be sure that you order some because these will be of a tremendous help. They are supplemental materials to help you in your Christian walk. And may God bless.
It's time to plan for the 47th Annual Southern Gospel Singing at Sea Cruise. Join Andrew and Shirlene Phipps as you depart from Port Canaveral for the trip, January 30th through February 3rd, 2023, for warm sunshine and tropical breezes in the Caribbean. With 30 of the top Southern Gospel groups in the nation, you will be entertained and you'll be inspired by the best in Southern Gospel preaching. Dine on delicious foods, see the sights, and bask in the warm glow of Christian fellowship on the world's largest all-Christian cruise to the Bahamas. Hurry, because this trip of a lifetime sells out fast. All that is needed now is a small deposit, and you can continue to pay over time. For more information, call Andrew Phipps at 765-744-4239.
And friends, we're always excited about being with you. We hope that you'll continue to help us advertise our program wherever. We are trying to hit it on every front, politically, economically, socially. Now, I do speak in churches, and I'm out of Liberty Baptist Church, Muncie, Indiana, an independent Baptist church. If you'd ever feel that maybe we could help in one of your services, it would be an honor for us to come. 1964, Ronald Reagan, who was seeking the governorship of California, gave a classic speech. He called it A Time for Choosing. It was a very eloquent speech and yet really hit home with so many people. I think now would be a good time for us to view that particular speech by then the candidate for governor, Ronald Reagan.
The following pre-recorded political program is sponsored by TV for Goldwater Miller on behalf of Barry Goldwater, Republican candidate for President of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, we take pride in presenting a thoughtful address by Ronald Reagan. Mr. Reagan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you and good evening. The sponsor has been identified, but unlike most television programs, the performer hasn't been provided with a script. As a matter of fact, I have been permitted to choose my own words and discuss my own ideas regarding the choice that we face in the next few weeks. I have spent most of my life as a Democrat. I recently have seen fit to follow another course. I believe that the issues confronting us cross party lines. Now, one side in this campaign has been telling us that the issues of this election are the maintenance of peace and prosperity. The line has been used, we've never had it so good. But I have an uncomfortable feeling that this prosperity isn't something on which we can base our hopes for the future. No nation in history has ever survived a tax burden that reached a third of its national income. Today, 37 cents out of every dollar earned in this country is the tax collector's share. And yet our government continues to spend $17 million a day more than the government takes in. We haven't balanced our budget 28 out of the last 34 years. We've raised our debt limit 3 times in the last 12 months. And now our national debt is 1.5 times bigger than all the combined debts of all the nations of the world. We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce. Foreign dollar claims are $27.3 billion. And we've just had announced that the dollar of 1939 will now purchase 45 cents in its total value. As for the peace that we would preserve, I wonder who among us would like to approach the wife or mother whose husband or son has died in South Vietnam and ask them if they think this is a peace that should be maintained indefinitely. Do they mean peace, or do they mean we just want to be left in peace? There can be no real peace while one American is dying someplace in the world for the rest of us. We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. You and I are told increasingly we have to choose between a left or right. Well, I'd like to suggest there is no such thing as a left or right. There's only an up or down. Man's old age dream, the ultimate in individual freedom consistent with law and order, or down to the ant-heap of totalitarianism. And regardless of their sincerity, their humanitarian motives, those who would trade our freedom for security have embarked on this downward course. In this vote harvesting time, they use terms like the Great Society, or as we were told a few days ago by the President, we must accept a greater government activity in the affairs of the people. But they've been a little more explicit in the past, and among themselves, and all of the things I now will quote have appeared in print. These are not Republican accusations. For example, they have voices that say the Cold War will end through our acceptance of a not undemocratic socialism. Another voice says the profit motive has become outmoded. It must be replaced by the incentives of the welfare state. Or our traditional system of individual freedom is incapable of solving the complex problems of the 20th century. Senator Fulbright has said at Stanford University that the Constitution is outmoded. He referred to the President as our moral teacher and our leader. And he says he is hobbled in his task by the restrictions of power imposed on him by this antiquated document. He must be freed so that he can do for us what he knows is best. And Senator Clark of Pennsylvania, another articulate spokesman, defines liberalism as meeting the material needs of the masses through the full power of centralized government. Well, I, for one, resent it when a representative of the people refers to you and me, the free men and women of this country, as the masses. This is a term we haven't applied to ourselves in America. But beyond that, the full power of centralized government, this was the very thing the Founding Fathers sought to minimize. They knew that governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people. And they know when a government sets out to do that, it must use force and coercion to achieve its purpose. They also knew, those Founding Fathers, that outside of its legitimate functions, government does nothing as well or as economically as the private sector of the economy.
And our goal is to help churches, to help Bible-believing churches and Christians, and to help our country, whether it's going to the halls of Congress or speaking around the nation. We feel that the Lord has given us an opportunity to do that, and we want to speak out as best we can. We want to speak the truth in love, but yet speak truth to error. And as we were seeing in the Time for Choosing episode there by Ronald Reagan, I think today that you and I, again, we have to be reminded of the fact that it seems like we could put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, and it wouldn't be long until there would be a shortage of sand. We must use the best sense that we can. We're fighting for our families, our children, our children's children, our posterity. And I know that everything will work out as it's supposed to work out, but that doesn't mean that you and I just sit idly by and do nothing. We need to be like Jeremiah the prophet. We need to be like those great patriarchs, cry aloud and spare not. We must do our best to stand up for what we believe. Our Christian faith, our Bibles, the Christ of our Bible is under attack in so many places. They have no problem with advocating the most bizarre and perverse situations or ideologies, but if you mention the name of Christ, it's like you have spoken something that is profane. But I think today that you and I would do well to remember that this Bible that we embrace, the Christ that we adore, the Christ in whom we have placed our faith, that he is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and that he's going to come back in power and great glory. He's coming back for the redeemed. There's a difference, of course, between the appearing of the Lord and the coming of the Lord. But all who have placed childlike faith in him, who have believed on him, his death, his burial, his resurrection, and have professed it as to those that would listen, their faith in Christ is what saves people. Its salvation is in the person of the Lord Jesus Christ. And somebody said, well, it's strange how things are working out. Well, I don't want to be a doomsday type person, but things will work out just exactly the way the Lord said they would work out. But in so doing, we need to be up and about the Father's business. We need to be telling others that Jesus saves, that he is the author of salvation, that he's the only way. There are not many, many ways to heaven. Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. We come to him. It's not by anything that we do to merit salvation. It's not by one bit of works that we would try to do to hold out or hold on, but it's our faith in him and him alone. That's where our salvation is. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. He is the great I am. He is the rose of Sharon. He is the balm in Gilead. He's the answer to all of our dilemmas. He is the great physician. I hope today that our Faith, Family, and Freedom broadcast may have been a source of encouragement. Maybe it's been a source of helping to educate. Maybe it's been a blessing in other ways. We want you to join us at the next time, and this is Andy.